Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel NPA Discovery. Thank you for being here today, because what you're about to hear is not just another biography, it is one of the most heartbreaking cautionary tales in Hollywood history. Today's video is titled, The Lost Boy of Disney, How Bobby Driscoll Became Hollywood's Most Tragic Child Star. Before we begin, please remember to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your support gives us the motivation to keep bringing you the stories others are afraid to tell. Now, let's begin. The phrase, Disney's Lost Boy, is often used as a poetic label for Bobby Driscoll. But is it accurate? Is it fair? In my opinion, yes, and painfully so. Not because Disney intentionally tried to destroy his life, but because of something far worse, a system that used a child, discarded him, and then pretended he had never existed. Bobby's downfall was not the work of one villain. It was the result of an industry built on youthful perfection, relentless pressure, and zero forgiveness for children who grow up. If there is one thing this story proves, it's this: Hollywood loves its angels, until they grow wings. And once Bobby grew beyond the perfect little boy Walt Disney needed, the industry simply walked away. But Bobby did not walk away unscathed. His story is one of rare talent, meteoric rise, cruel abandonment, and a descent so tragic that even in death, he faced a final humiliation. Today, we explore that journey, not to judge him, but to understand him. A child who never asked for fame. Bobby Driscoll entered the world in 1937, the treasured only child of loving, hardworking parents. There was nothing glamorous about the Driscoll household, no agents, no studios, no expectations of fame. The truth is, Bobby should have grown up like any other boy, playing outside, making friends, scraping his knees on the sidewalk. But fate had other plans. A barber's remark that changed everything. One afternoon, 5-year-old Bobby was simply getting a haircut. He wasn't trying to be cute. He wasn't performing. He was just a kid. But the barber paused, tilted his head, and said, "This boy should be in the movies." That single sentence changed the course of Bobby's life. The barber's son, who was connected to the acting world, introduced the family to a talent agent. The agent took one look at Bobby's face, expressive eyes, natural innocence, and effortless charm. He immediately saw potential. Soon after, Bobby landed his first role, just 2 minutes of screen time in an MGM picture. But that was enough. Hollywood had found its next little star. The early shine of a Hollywood golden boy. Through the mid-1940s, Bobby appeared in several films, and audiences responded instantly. He was sweet without being sugary, honest without being overacted, and naturally charismatic. He had what every studio wanted. Authenticity. Emotional depth. The ability to make you care. But what truly pushed him towards superstardom was not the movies themselves, it was Walt Disney. The moment Walt Disney discovered him. In the 1940s, Disney Studios was struggling financially, desperately needing reliable young talent. Walt Disney saw Bobby and instantly believed, "This is the boy who can bring my stories to life." Bobby was signed under contract, the first child actor Disney ever officially invested in. And just like that, a normal boy became the face of Disney's next era. His first major Disney film, Song of the South, proved two things: Bobby could carry a movie. Audiences absolutely adored him. Disney quickly moved him to starring roles. For a time, Bobby was one of the studio's greatest assets. But success can be a double-edged sword, especially for a child. Before we go deeper, let me share a real-life parallel that puts Bobby's journey into perspective. A child psychologist once said something that haunts me: a child actor becomes emotionally dependent on applause. When the applause fades, it feels like losing the air needed to breathe. That is exactly what happened to Bobby Driscoll. The applause came early. The applause was loud. And then, the applause stopped. But Bobby was still just a boy. And like any child who loses the only validation he ever knew, he spiraled. By age 10, Bobby was starring in critically praised films like The Window. He won an Academy Award at just 13. His name appeared in newspapers. His face was everywhere. He was the living symbol of innocence and adventure. And then, Peter Pan happened. Between 1949 and 1953, Bobby worked on Peter Pan, providing both the voice and the physical live-action reference for the animators. He jumped, danced, fought imaginary pirates, and embodied the spark of boyhood magic. But after the film released, Walt Disney himself made a chilling remark, that Bobby's performance felt cold, unlikable, and even arrogant. One sentence, one opinion, and everything changed. Suddenly Bobby was no longer Disney's golden child. He was no longer the future of the studio. He was replaceable. And there is nothing more terrifying for a child actor than being replaced. The cold day everything ended. One morning in 1953, teenage Bobby walked to the Disney Studios gate. He expected a normal day. Instead, the security guard stopped him and said, "You're no longer allowed inside." Just like that, without warning, Bobby Driscoll was fired. No meeting. No explanation. No goodbye. A child who gave Disney his youth, his image, and his heart was dismissed like a stranger. That moment shattered him. And from that point on, Bobby Driscoll's life would never again climb upward. It would only fall. The boy who lost his kingdom. When Bobby Driscoll walked away from the Disney studio gates that day, confused, rejected, and humiliated, he stepped into a world that no longer knew what to do with him. The brutal truth is this: Hollywood applauds children, but it does not raise them. It celebrates their innocence, but it does not protect it. And once they begin to change, everything they once had evaporates. Bobby learned that lesson at an age when most boys were just starting high school. As soon as Disney discarded Bobby, he discovered something far worse: no one else wanted him either. Casting directors didn't see a versatile actor, they saw Disney's kid. They saw the boy from Song of the South, the boy from Treasure Island, the voice of Peter Pan. But they didn't see a teenager. They didn't see a young man. They saw a child trapped in amber. And in Hollywood, nothing is more dangerous than being trapped in the past. Regardless of how talented Bobby was, and he was exceptionally talented, studios feared that audiences would not accept him in older, more mature roles. His career didn't simply slow down. It slammed into a wall. And for a boy who had lived his entire life in front of cameras, that silence was unbearable. The cruel reality of teenage stardom. When Bobby was pulled out of the Hollywood professional school and placed into a regular high school, it was the first time he truly understood how brutal the real world can be. At University High School, the other students didn't admire him, they mocked him. Imagine being 13, 14 years old, walking through the hallways, and hearing whispers. "There goes Peter Pan. Hey Disney boy, fly for us. What happened to your fame?" They weren't jealous, they were cruel. And for a sensitive child who grew up being praised for every expression on his face, the shift was devastating. Loneliness settled in. Shame grew. And beneath both was something even more dangerous, a craving to escape. The beginning of addiction. At 17, Bobby tried drugs for the first time. Not because he wanted to be cool. Not because he wanted to rebel. But because, for the first time in his life, it quieted the noise. It quieted the shame. It quieted the fear. It quieted the voice that kept telling him, "You peaked at 12. Your life is already over." That is a terrifying thought for anyone, let alone a teenager. From marijuana to harder substances, Bobby slid quickly into the world of addiction. But remember, he was still just a child. No one intervened. No studio. No executive. No one from Disney. The same industry that monitored every breath he took as a child suddenly had nothing to say now that he needed help. This is the part of Bobby's story that hurts the most: Hollywood created him. Hollywood abandoned him. Hollywood watched him drown. A brief and fragile ray of hope. To their credit, Bobby's parents eventually moved him back to the Hollywood Professional School, hoping to restore some stability. His grades improved. His confidence returned. For a short time, he even started landing small roles in television dramas. But addiction is a shadow that grows long, and soon, it overtook everything again. By the late 1950s, Bobby was no longer the adorable boy America adored. He was now a struggling young man with a criminal record, a broken marriage, and no career. But even that wasn't the end. The darkest chapter was still ahead. The final descent. After years of struggling in Hollywood, Bobby tried the only thing left: he ran. He left California behind and moved to New York City, hoping the theater world might offer redemption. New York has always been a city of reinvention, a place where people rewrite themselves, where the past can be erased with the right amount of courage. But New York is also unforgiving. It exposes weaknesses. It magnifies pain. And for someone as emotionally fragile as Bobby, the city became both sanctuary and poison. The Andy Warhol chapter, a strange, beautiful detour. At some point in the mid-60s, Bobby drifted into Andy Warhol's factory, the avant-garde art studio that attracted outcasts, creatives, renegades, and lost souls. In a strange twist of fate, Warhol, who adored Broken Beauty, embraced Bobby instantly. Here was a former Disney star, forgotten by Hollywood, discarded by fame, but still possessing intensity, sensitivity, and an artist's eye. Warhol, as he often did, saw something others overlooked. Bobby began painting. And for the first time since childhood, he felt appreciated. Critics praised his work. His art hung in exhibitions. He reconnected with the spark he thought was gone forever. For a moment, Bobby was alive again. But moments, for him, never lasted long. The return of the darkness. Addiction, once it grips, rarely lets go. Even as his art flourished, Bobby's body and mind deteriorated. The dangerous cycle continued: sobriety, relapse. Hope, despair. Creation, collapse. His friends in the art world later said he had the soul of a poet, but the pain of someone who had been abandoned too young, too abruptly. Several attempts to revive his acting career failed. Broadway didn't know what to do with him. Producers didn't recognize him. The world had moved on. But Bobby couldn't. The tragic discovery. On March 30, 1968, two young boys were exploring an abandoned East Village tenement building. One of the countless forgotten structures in a city that swallows people whole. Inside a cold, empty room, they found the body of a man lying on a cot. No wallet. No ID. No family. No friends searching for him. Just one more anonymous casualty of the city. The medical examiner determined he died of heart failure brought on by long-time drug abuse. No one knew it was Bobby Driscoll. The boy who once carried Disney on his shoulders, died nameless. He was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave on Hart Island, the potter's field where the forgotten are laid to rest. His exact burial spot is unknown, lost forever. The legacy that should have been. Bobby's death remained unknown until 1969, more than a year later, when his mother tried to locate him so he could reunite with his dying father. Only then did she learn the truth. Hollywood did not mourn him. Disney did not memorialize him. And to this day, he has never received a place among the official Disney legends. That omission speaks louder than any tribute. In 1972, Disney re-released Song of the South, one of Bobby's most important films. Audiences once again saw the bright-eyed boy who saved the studio during financial crisis. But did they know he was gone? Did they know his grave was unmarked, his story unknown? Of course not. Disney celebrated the film's profits. The world praised the artistry. And the little boy who made it all possible, remained erased. Some call this negligence. Some call it hypocrisy. I call it a tragedy. The truth about child fame. Bobby's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. child actors are adored, but rarely protected. Hollywood has no safety net for the children it turns into stars. And the industry is built on a horrible contradiction: it demands children behave like adults, but treats them like disposable toys. Bobby Driscoll was not weak. He was not a failure. He was a child thrown into an adult world that did not love him back. A real-life lesson for all of us. Throughout my research and reflection on Bobby's story, I kept returning to a quote from writer Henry Rollins: "Loneliness adds beauty to life. It puts a special burn on sunsets and makes night air smell better." But for Bobby, loneliness didn't add beauty. It devoured him. It erased him. It turned the magic of childhood into the ashes of adulthood. His life should remind us that behind every perfect child star is a fragile human being. One who deserves protection, compassion, and a future. The final message, the emotional, powerful ending. And so we end where Bobby's life began, not with tragedy, but with hope. Because despite everything, the abandonment, the heartbreak, the addiction, the forgotten grave, Bobby Driscoll still left behind something extraordinary: a warning. A legacy. A call for accountability. His story forces us to look at the entertainment industry not as a dream factory, but as a machine. A machine that must be changed, must be questioned, must be held accountable for the children it shapes. His story forces us to re-examine our obsession with fame, our indifference to suffering, our willingness to forget people once the spotlight leaves them. But most importantly, his story calls us to be better. Better humans. Better mentors. Better protectors of those who cannot protect themselves. And maybe, just maybe, if we remember Bobby Driscoll, if we say his name, if we tell his story, then the little boy who once taught the world how to fly will finally find the peace he never had in life. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support ensures we can continue honoring the lives that Hollywood tried to erase. We'll see you in the next video.